Special coverage of the Deutsche Gold Messe is brought to you by First Majestic Silver Corp, listed on the NYSE and the TSX under the ticker AG. There's no substitute for silver. Hello and welcome back to Soar Financially, here on the floor of the Deutsche Gold Messe in Frankfurt. My name is Kai Hoffmann, I'm the @JR Mining guy over on X, and of course, your host of the channel. And I'm looking forward to welcoming Keith Neumeyer. Keith, you're President and CEO over at First Majestic. Thank you so much for joining us here in Frankfurt.
Well, Kai, it's great seeing you again, and it's always a pleasure to be at your conference.
Yeah, I really appreciate you coming out. Of course, always a bit of a trip from Vancouver, North America to come out. We got to talk.
Sure.
Lots to talk. We got the silver space, of course. I want to get your insights. A couple of transactions have happened recently, but also we got to talk about your record quarter and record year end as well. Maybe we'll start there. Let's set the scene a little bit. You put out the Q1 results just May 8th here recently. You used the word record 27 times in the press release. You were obviously excited about the results. Run us a bit through the highlights, Keith.
Yeah, sure. We ended 2024 off on a very positive note as well. Q4 was a great quarter for us, and then we knew Q1 was going to be good. With the merger of Gatos, which came into the portfolio on January 16th. So it's still not a full quarter with that mine operating. So, we're expecting Q2 to be a pretty good, darn good quarter as well. But nevertheless, going back to Q1, we had record revenues of over $240 million, cash flow earning or operating cash flow of about $110 million, free cash flow of over $40 million. Ended the quarter with over $450 million in the bank. So that's a pretty good place to be as the CEO of a publicly traded mining company.
Absolutely, that's a lot of cash. We'll get to what you're going to do with that cash in a second. But sure. I saw you're also buying back shares and you're paying a dividend, so you're actually using that cash already. So
yeah, the share buyback program. We started buying back stock in December actually. Since then, we bought about 1 million shares back, and about $6 million US investment. And those shares, of course, get canceled and reduce our share count, which is important, I think. And we're going to continue that program on weakness. If the stock does rally, we might back off a little bit, but I think the stock is highly undervalued at this particular price, and we're going to continue buying back stock.
Are you buying out shareholders, Los Gatos shareholders? Is that just churn that you're seeing?
Yeah, there was a liquidity event for Gatos. It's if you ever looked at that company, and it wasn't a very well-known company, U.S. based, and it was very illiquid stock. On a good day, that stock would trade 50,000 shares. And I saw days where the stock traded zero volume, which is pretty surprising. And, we gave that shareholder base quite the liquidity. Our stock trades, 15 to 20 million shares a day. So, and they're up, 100% on their investment. So, of course, some of that stock is going to come into the market. And we've been witnessing that since closing. And I'm hoping it's over. We just came back from London and met with some of the investors or shareholders of Gatos who now own First Majestic stock, and they're all quite happy with what we're doing. And some have taken some profits, but there's others that have actually added to their position.
And when we last spoke, I think you mentioned to me that Gatos has a big institutional shareholder base, while you had more of a retail-focused shareholder base. So it's a really good combination here. I think you're 55% now institutionally owned.
That's right, and we brought some really good institutions into our portfolio now, our shareholder base, and that was really nice to see. If you look at our share registry today, comparing to what it was last year, it's quite a lot different.
Absolutely, no, that's fantastic. Some other highlights, like from the Los Gatos transaction, anything that we need to be aware of there?
Well, it's running really well. It's actually above budget right now, which is really nice to see. We haven't made very many changes because it was just operating so well. We didn't really have to do a lot. It's not like other transactions we've done historically where we have to go in and fix things. This is already running very smoothly. We did make some personnel changes, which is obvious. But other than that, we've made no changes to the operation.
Yeah. What's the guidance for the year in terms of production?
Yeah, we're thinking we're going to be around 31 million silver equivalent ounces, of which about 55% of that's silver, about 30% of that's gold, and the rest is in the form of lead and zinc. And that would compare to about 21 million ounces of silver equivalent in 2024.
Okay. Well, I threatened that we'd come back to the cash position that you have, the liquidity available. $450 million is nothing to sneeze at. You mentioned share buybacks are happening, a small dividend is being paid. Yeah. What are you going to do with the cash, Keith?
Well, hoard it. There's the silver space is getting quite small, so we do own footholds in some juniors. But other than that, I just want to see accumulation. I want to see that treasury continually grow throughout the year.
It's an interesting topic. Just thought of that. you've done that before. You've held silver back. With that cash position, it allows you to be a bit more financially flexible, maybe not deliver into the market and hold that back. So, like, is that an option you keep looking at?
Well, we carried over 600,000 ounces of silver over the quarter, so that's worth, at current metal prices, around $25 million in that range. So that's a lot of silver, and we do have the mint. So we do have silver in our vaults, and there's silver in storage at the mines as well. So we'll continue with that process. I think we're going to have a great year for silver. It's highly underperformed gold, and I think it's a good time to be hoarding silver.
Let me ask an outrageous question. Does it make sense to buy silver in the market?
I don't, not for a mining company.
No.
I don't think so. We produce a lot. Like, what good is that?
I was going to say, produce at $20, why buy it for $32?
Yeah, exactly.
So,
and we might as well put that money into the stock and just buy back shares.
Yeah, makes more sense. Absolutely. In terms of exploration, like, what's the spend this year? Like, how much?
$49 million in exploration, and we've got around 30 rigs active right now. 270,000 kilometers of or meters, 270,000 meters of drilling this year, and so it's a pretty robust drill program for sure.
And any sustaining CapEx or so that you need to invest? I'm just poking away here at the cash position, of course.
Yeah, the total CapEx for the year is 180 million, and that's spread throughout the assets. A lot of that goes into development, of course. We're developing underground, and of course that's expensive to do. The drilling, those are discretionary, but other costs, are just fixed costs that are probably in the order of $100 million.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. Like, do you guide roughly where you end the year, cash-wise? Is there?
No, we don't.
Okay.
No, because we do in our guidance put silver prices in. Our prices that we use are $2,600 gold and $29 silver, I believe. I hope I got that right. and that's what we use for projecting our cash. And obviously, at current metal prices, our cash reserves are growing more quickly than what our budget actually states.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's shift the conversation a little bit. Let's talk more about the silver market in general, more from the mining side. You mentioned you're hoarding cash potentially for another acquisition. You already have $400 million in cash. Like, tell us a bit more about what does the market in general look like right now in the silver space?
Getting smaller. We've seen the Corp transaction with Silvercrest. We've seen the Pan American transaction with MAG. There's really very few producers left out there that are of any size. And for us, when we're looking at M&A, we want producing assets. It doesn't do us any good, to go buy an exploration portfolio. We need permitted assets that are either under construction or just coming into production. Maybe even distressed assets, which we love to buy. If they're available. It's hard to have a distressed asset at $3,000 gold and over $30 silver, mind you. But we're always looking, and there's no immediate plans. And even if there was, I probably couldn't tell you anyways.
No, I'll ask anyway, but you can't tell me. So,
right.
But no, good point though. With the silver price and the gold price where it is, like, are there even opportunities available cash flow wise? Because I know people probably have the weirdest expectations in terms of multiples they're looking for as well, willing to part with an asset or so. Like, what does that look like? Are the expectations risen as well? Yeah,
well, we paid around $10 an ounce for reserves in the ground for the Gatos transaction, which is pretty good. It'd be hard to beat that. It's hard to criticize that transaction, despite the fact, we felt that we paid quite a lot for it. If you look at some of the other transactions that have happened since then, it kind of makes that transaction, look pretty good.
Absolutely. Maybe one last question on the balance sheet real quick, coming back to that. You have some debt, of course, some convertible debt as well. With the cash, any what do you call it? Like, are you going to convert? Are you going to pay it back? Is there, because I remember you telling me the interest on that debt is very, very low. Yeah,
it's the lowest convertible debenture in the market ever done in the mining sector, actually, at 0.375%, which is pretty darn good. It's hard to beat that, and if we were to redo it, of course, it wouldn't be at that level. We're in discussions right now on what we're going to do with that convertible. It comes due in January 2027, so we have some time to make that decision.
Before we talk silver market, let's talk First Mint real quick as well.
Sure.
How's the business developing here?
Well, we had a great Q4. We had another great Q1. It's year over year, it's huge growth. We did almost $8 million in revenue through the Mint in Q1. It's making money. It's a very fun business. we have a lot of fun selling metal to investors, and I'm glad we did it. It was done out of frustration, because we've been selling retail silver products into investors primarily since 2008. And in 2022, I got quite frustrated because we weren't getting the metal. We were delivering the metal to the mints, and they were just simply sitting on it. And we would have to wait 6-8 months to get product. And you would go onto our website, and you'd see sold out, sold out, sold out. And people were getting frustrated. And I just said, I pulled the plug on it and said that we got to have our own mint. And it took some time. It's a new business. We had to put the people in place, and get all the equipment in place, find a location, and that took time. And but it started production in March of 2024, and so it's only been there for a year, really. So it's a new kind of a startup, but we're having a lot of fun with it.
Oh, I can imagine. The Trump coin, I think we talked about it last time, was sold out rather quickly.
It was, yes. We got criticized a little bit as well, but it was quite a popular item.
Well, on YouTube, it's called trend checking. Trend jacking. So
okay.
You just got to go with the trends, and that's where it was.
Was,
Talking about trends, tariffs are a trend. Does that impact your business at all? Meaning, your mint is in Nevada, your mines are in Mexico. Any impact? Anything?
Well, silver and gold are exempt, thank goodness. So that was good to hear, because we were concerned, because we are transferring metal from our mines to the mint in Vegas, and if there was a tariff on that would really change things. So we did have some backup plans to get the metal shipped into Canada and get it produced there, but nevertheless, we're not affected at this time. We're crossing our fingers, but we're always monitoring the situation. The way Trump is, he changes his mind, it seems, almost daily. So we're monitoring it.
Yeah, I think we're past the shock and awe phase, though. I think we're in the deal-making phase, so we'll see where that goes.
Exactly.
And see if he gets his deals done, right?
Exactly, yeah.
We got to talk silver, Keith. $32 roughly as we speak here. Not a bad performance. It's slightly outperformed gold, actually, but not by much. Gold-silver ratio is at around 100, actually, as we speak here. What do you make of silver price performance right now?
Well, the gold ratio has been at this level only 3 times, I think, in the last, in history, actually. And every time it hits this ratio, it always goes back. It seems a little bit sticky, with the good performance on gold, but I think silver will start to get a bid. The silver story is getting out there. People are hearing, it's not a poor man's gold. It's actually a strategic metal, and it's required for even this video that we're doing today. Without silver, we couldn't do this, and people are waking up to that fact. And we just came back from London with some institutional shareholders that are really looking at the silver space, and it's quite nice to see.
Yeah. Well, Ray Dalio just bought $320 million worth of gold, GOLD. I think he just bought the ETF there. But we're waiting for somebody to announce, hey, I just bought $50 million worth of silver. Why hasn't that happened yet?
Well, I think it could, but I think more likely we're going to find a supply shock, because we've had deficits now for 5 years, and you can't run deficits like that forever. The silver's coming from somewhere, obviously, but these banks who have these paper shorts that are delivering into the commercials. If you're BMW or Samsung, you've got to deal with one of the banks, and they have a paper contract against that trade, and they're getting metal from the miners and delivering that metal to these big consumers. And I think what's going to happen is the bank just won't simply be able to find the metal, and compliance department will walk into the trading desk and say, hey, what the heck are you guys doing? We can't fulfill this contract for this metal that we're supposed to be delivering to this customer. And then they force the trading department to move in and start collapsing some of those trades.
How has the silver market changed the last 2-3 years? Do you see any fundamental changes to it? The perception has changed a little bit of silver, I think.
I think that it has, but not fast enough, mind you. But I put the company together 22 years ago, and I've been educating the market on silver ever since. And when I was put the company together, I chose silver because it was so unique and so strategic, in my opinion. And we've had rallies periodically, and I think I think, as I said, it will perform nicely. But we're consuming over 1.2 billion ounces as through industry, and 70% of that's industrial, and we're only producing, as the mining sector, 830 million ounces a year. So that disconnect, and it looks like the ball's not going to go backwards. solar panel production is not going to, start to fall off. Computer production, cell phone production, all these big drivers of the silver demand aren't going anywhere.
The company's goal is to become the largest primary silver producer in the world. Fresnillo is sitting at the top, of course. How are you going to get them? How are you going to catch them?
Well, you got to have goals in life, right? And I'm a big goal-driven individual, and if you don't have goals, then how are you going to move forward? And yes, it's a lofty goal for sure. I can't predict how or when we would achieve such a thing, but it's a good goal to have.
I think the influencer term these days is manifest. You got to manifest it.
Exactly.
No, it's interesting. Just random question, because I saw the chart pop up the other day of the silver production in Q1, and Fresnillo is obviously sitting at the top.
I saw the same chart. Yes.
Yeah. So really interesting stuff. Keith, on the silver side, I'm jumping back around a little bit. Just on the gold silver ratio, I want to get a bit more granular on that. It's only happened a few times that we broke over 100. One time was 2008, massive financial crisis. Is that ratio right now telling you anything? Are you taking anything away from that? Should we interpret something into that might be happening in the background here?
Well, central banks are buying gold, and they're not buying silver. Maybe we need central banks to start buying silver. I don't know, but it is very much a disconnect. The mining sector produces, for every 1 ounce of gold, only 7 ounces of silver. The theory is that there's 16 ounces of silver in the Earth's crust compared to gold, and we're not even close to mining 16. We're only mining 7 to 1. So having a ratio of over 100 just makes absolutely no sense to me.
Do you see silver catching up or gold coming down?
I hope it's silver going up. I don't have a crystal ball, but
No.
It's gold at these prices is obviously quite good. We're making a substantial amount of money on our gold sales, which is really nice to see. I hope that changes for silver.
I hope so as well, personally. Like $50 still the goal that we need to get to at least.
Well, should be triple digits, right?
Yeah.
I coined that phrase, over a decade ago, and when I was laughed at and criticized a number of times, and now there's other people out there talking about even higher numbers than $100. I've seen estimates of $200 to $300 silver, which I've never predicted, but that would be pretty incredible if that happened.
It'd be amazing. Quite honestly, I think the market would go absolutely bonkers. Keith, again,
well, it'll go bonkers at $50.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
like just the euphoria that will enter the market will change things dramatically. Maybe just coming back to First Majestic, I know I'm jumping around a little bit with my questions. I apologize for that. But future catalysts, we got to talk about. You mentioned the integration of Los Gatos, super smooth. You didn't have to change a lot. You changed a couple, like on the HR side, were some changes, but in general, running smoothly. Are you ready for another acquisition?
Well, on catalysts, we've got a huge, exploration program, as we talked about already. We're going to have news out on our couple of core assets over the next couple of quarters. Some really good results coming in from our drilling programs, which we want to get out to the market. Hopefully, there's a reaction in the share price. We'll see. On the M&A front, we just pulled off the largest transaction in the company's history. And we have to absorb it. It takes a while to integrate an asset of that size. All the IT systems that have to be upgraded, and we have to put First Majestic's kind of look and feel on the asset, and that's underway right now. Changing all the logos at the mine, for example.
Everybody's vests and everything.
Yeah, exactly. And it takes time. It's not a simple task, and getting the IT systems all in place, that takes time as well. Training, and you got to install them over a period of quarters, and it's a process.
Yeah.
So we need to get through that, and maybe within the year, or maybe next year, maybe will be something else will come up. But we have a whole team of people internally that look at M&A possibilities. So we have several NDAs in place, and we're always watching the market for interesting things that are going on.
Well, you're invested in a couple of juniors as well. Maybe give us maybe as a final question here, and the landscape. What does it look like in the exploration space right now? You don't have to mention names, but like what are you seeing? What kind of trends are you seeing in regard to silver? Because we all know that it's a very small space.
Well, what we're seeing is there is when an exploration company does come out with an interesting drill intercept, the stock actually moves, and that's fairly new in the last year basically. So the market is slowly paying attention to the exploration space. The developer space is having a tough time. The money is just simply not going into the developers, which is unfortunate. It does create an opportunity for the majors because a developer that's close to permits or maybe has their permits in place already, become targets for the majors, and that's a space that we've got our eyes on.
Okay, interesting stuff. Keith, really appreciate you joining us. Really great conversation as always. Where can we? My standard question is where can we find more of you? Because we have keynotes in there, but firstmajestic.com, I guess.
Yep, no, that's where you go. And, we got a 1-800 number for anyone who wishes to talk to our investor relations personnel. I'm on Twitter, Keith_Neumeyer. If people want to look me up there, I retweet news releases and things that are of interest to me, I retweet. And I'm easily seen. I do interviews like this, fairly regularly. So, just type my name into Google, I'm sure you could figure it out.
Fantastic. Keith, thank you so much for coming out. Really appreciate it. Everybody else, thank you so much for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed this conversation with Keith Neumeyer. If you did, hit that like and subscribe button. Helps us out tremendously. And we'll be back with lots more here from Frankfurt. Thanks so much.